Hi guys, welcome back to What Fuels a Dancer. My name is Leah and I am a professional ballet dancer and a certified nutrition health coach. We've been talking about some challenges and issues that many dancers face when they are injured. And today we are going to be talking about body image and issues that dancers face in regards to their body image when they're injured. I am joined today by Goldie, who is a professional ballet dancer and also the founder of the Lazy Ballerina Club here on YouTube. I'm so excited to bring this conversation to you today, so make sure you check all of her links down below and keep watching. All right, guys, so I have Goldie with me, and we are going to be talking about body image when it comes to injuries and how dancers deal with that throughout their injury and recovery process. So welcome, Goldie. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit about yourself and why you started the Lazy Ballerina Club.
So I am a professional ballet dancer. I've been a professional for 6 years, and throughout my professional life, I've always thought that no one talks about 90% of the things that we deal with in the studio, and it wasn't until like late into my professional career where I started dealing with mental health issues and feeling like things in the studio weren't as healthy as they could. And I wanted to start the Lazy Ballerina Club to talk about all the things that no one really talks about and kind of normalize the mental health conversation stigma that is in ballet, because I don't think it's necessary. I think we all go through it. We're all feeling the same exact way in the studio, and for some reason, none of us are talking about it. So that's a little bit of the reason why I started the Lazy Ballerina Club.
Awesome. And I saw when you posted a video about body image and how that has changed for you during quarantine. I was like, yes, I need to have you on my channel talking about body image and during injuries, because I know that you've experienced that as well. So can you talk to me a little bit about your injury recovery process and how that affected your body image, whether positively or negatively?
Yes. Okay. So I'm going to knock on wood, because I have been kind of blessed in the injury department in my ballet career. I never really had that like serious out for 6 months injury. I think my biggest injury was I had a really bad ankle sprain and I was out for about 2 months, but that is enough to make your brain and mind spiral in a way. And it's interesting. It's one thing to go through an injury and have all of the feelings that come with that. I mean, you're out of rehearsals, you're worried about your job security, which is a whole other topic and so crazy, but I'm sure we'll get into that. And then on top of it, you're not in your normal schedule, you're not in rehearsals, so your body starts to change and you're trying to rehab, and it could just be the most frustrating thing. And, you know, in the company that I was in, we had a physical therapist every single day, which was amazing, and I was taking care of my injury, but no one was there to talk about my mental state, how it's affecting my body. I was going in to watch rehearsals in a boot, because that is for some reason a necessary thing that we have to do, and I'm looking in the mirror and I just don't recognize my body, and that can do wonders to your mental health, and it kind of messes up your recovery process, because you stop taking care of yourself in a healthy way, because you're focusing on things out of your control instead of accepting the reality and really taking care of yourself, body, mind, spirit as a whole situation. So it's tough. It's really, really tough.
I feel like there's so many of us dancers now who have gone through that cycle and
have come out on the other side and realized, wait, that's really not healthy for us to go through, and have started to try and change some of the things about it. Like with my conversation with Kirsten, we talked about mindset during an injury and how our mindset affects our body image, how we view ourselves as dancers, and then how that can affect our recovery in a good or bad way. And so I feel like it's something that we need to talk about more as dancers, because our bodies will change over time, and injury is one of those times, and we just have to kind of accept it. And, like, again, as you said, focus on how our body is feeling and recovering from our injury, and not how we look.
Exactly. So. And I think, a lot of these situations in the ballet world, I always like to say it's not entirely our fault, because we're in a room full of people that are judging us. We have our directors, our teachers judging us for things that are completely out of our control. We do not want to be injured. We do not want to be out of rehearsals. So it's definitely a hard thing to just accept the reality. But it's just so important when dealing with, like, two separate. When you're dealing with injuries, you have to have acceptance, and when you're dealing with body image at any stage of life, acceptance is key to everything. I swear. So
yeah. What do you wish you would have done differently during your injury? Knowing what you know now about body image acceptance?
Well, I think the first thing that comes to mind is to slow down and be patient. Just be patient, because the more you try to push and the more you try to get back to how you were before, the longer the recovery is, the worse it's going to be for you. So just reminding myself to ride it out and just be patient, and to focus on fueling my body in the correct way to help my injury and to keep me normal. Just because you're injured doesn't mean your whole entire world is ending. It's just like a little blip, and then you get back. And just to be patient with yourself and to be kind to yourself when you're injured.
Absolutely. And I feel like this is something that we deal with, is when we go through something as altering as an injury and we're out of the studio, when we're used to defining our whole lives around dance and us being able to dance and be on stage and perform. And when that's taken away, we kind of go through an identity crisis. And sometimes I feel like we hold on to how our body looks, like if it looks like how we were when we were dancing full time. We hold on to that as like our identity of what's left as a dancer. And we kind of like refuse to change or to try and focus on other aspects of our lives and of ourselves that are also a part of us. Like, we aren't just dancers. We have so many other things that are a part of us that make us unique and special and talented and even better dancers. And yeah, I think that's so important.
I think it's so important. And I think injured or not, I think especially during quarantine, the whole identity crisis conversation has been at the forefront of my mind, especially when it comes to body image, because I feel like the conversation about body image or eating disorders in the ballet world is talked about when you're in your career, but no one really talks about when you stop. And then there's no real way to keep up with your 8-hour rehearsal schedule in the real world. It's just not a real thing. So of course your body is going to change, because you're a human being, and it's healthy that it's changing. But I think especially in quarantine, I would, if I'm just being honest, like, I would look at myself in the mirror, and the thoughts in my head were, this is not a dancer's body. I have let myself go. I must not want it enough, or I must not love ballet enough to like keep committed and keep my shape. And it's just like, the more I say those thoughts out loud, the more I realize how toxic and how like impossible it is to stay with that. It's an impossible task to do.
Yeah, and especially when you're injured, like you physically can't move, and then to try and like keep up with your, 40-hour a week performing all the time shape is impossible. And if you do try and do it, I like your injuries will be stay the same or increase because you're going to unhealthy means to like try and stay in that shape and prolong your recovery, all of those things.
I'm having like flashbacks of like, we all know those dancers, like, and I was one of those dancers. I was in a boot going to the gym. Like, we are so like, I don't want to use the word crazy, but we're so crazy because like it's not just the pressure that we're feeling from ourselves or our directors. It's the pressure of this level of, I don't know, I guess it's discipline or just that like expectation of you have to push through everything. And I just remember when I sprained my ankle, people were telling me like, well, you can do everything other than legs and you can do everything other than blah, blah, blah. And I was like, you know what? I don't think I need to go to the gym right now. I think I need to sit on my couch and ice my ankle, and I think it's going to be okay.
Yes.
It's just a strange way of thinking. And the more that I'm like out of the world and removed from the daily grind of being in the studio, the more I realize like, ooh, we need to change some things in the
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm so glad that you're talking about those things because especially as a lot of people's idea of what it means to be a dancer has changed over quarantine. I hope that we can move towards like a healthier mindset when we go back into the studio.
Yes.
Hopefully.
It's hard. It's hard because I even have to catch myself. Like, especially now that I started Lazy Ballerina Club and I'm so open and I'm trying to be as vulnerable and open as possible. I'm preaching acceptance and love your body and all of these amazing things. And then I have to check myself like, you actually have to do what you're saying.
Yeah.
But it's totally a muscle. It is completely a muscle that you have to train and work on. And the more you swap out those negative thoughts with those positive affirmations, the easier it is to actually believe those things. And that goes for injuries too. The more you are strong and staying true to what you feel is right for your body, the healthier and the quicker you're going to get back into the studio.
Absolutely. I 100% agree. What tools do you wish you would have had during your injury to especially help you recover and help with your body image that you either know of now or that you still wish were out there for injured dancers?
So, like I said, I was grateful enough. We had an amazing physical therapist on call every single day with the company. I texted her if I needed anything. She was right there. So that was amazing. But the one thing that I wish, and I will say to every single person I meet on the street, is to get yourself in therapy. Go to therapy. It'll change your life. And for a long time, actually, I was totally the person that I was like, I don't have problems. Like, therapy is for people with problems, like these big issues that they're dealing with. But I truly, truly feel that every single dancer on this planet needs to be in therapy, and especially when you're injured, because there's so many emotions that go into injuries in the ballet world. I mean, body image, you feel like you're missing out, you feel like you're going to get replaced or fired, or that you're going to be behind, and when you're injured, you're away from your peers, you're away from your daily routine, so you're just at home having all of these thoughts in your head. And that is one thing I wish ballet companies would start providing. Just like a physical therapist, we need somehow a counselor or a mental health professional on call, just like we have for our bodies, because it's just as important to take care of your mind.
Absolutely. I 100% agree. And I could preach this every single day. Like, I think as dancers, we're used to dealing with pain and like with a lot of things that we're putting our body and our minds through because it takes so much discipline to do what we do. And needing help is sometimes seen as a weakness and like we aren't strong enough or good enough or whatever enough in order to like be able to get through this injury and like come out on the other side stronger. But it's like in reality, we're humans and we need to be able to talk to people about what we're feeling and work through that. There's a process to working through those feelings. And then also having that like outside input to see, because we're so trapped in our own head, to like have someone who you're talking to and they're able to see what you're going through, but from that outside perspective, and then provide really great advice as to like ways that we can shift how we're thinking and what we're doing in order to create that healthy relationship with our bodies and, you know, a healthier mindset. So 100%.
I think it's just, like I keep saying, obviously this pandemic and quarantine is a whole bunch of negatives and it is just a terrible thing, but there are also some positives and something beautiful that's coming from it.
Yes.
And I am so excited about these conversations that have been started because of quarantine and because of this pandemic, that I'm just hoping that we continue to talk about it, because it does, you can't just have that one person in the studio preaching this one thing and then have the rest of the studio still be in that toxic mindset, because I mean, the level of toxic when it comes to injuries is like beyond. I mean, it like, I have heard things just like, well, my injury was worse than your injury. You should be doing this. Like, well, when I had my hip taken out of my body, I was like waking up and doing variations, you know? It's like this level of comparison and judgment instead of acceptance and support.
Yeah.
With injuries and body image, I feel like everything we're talking about it's all connected in the ballet world, but especially injuries and especially body image.
Yeah. And I feel like it's so helpful. Like I've talked to so many dancers who are struggling with body image during injuries, which is totally normal. And I encourage them. I'm like, take this time. You're not having to stand in front of a mirror for 40 hours a week. And you're not in a leotard and tights every single day. Like take this time to truly reassess what you think your body should look like. And I really hope that in the future, and like I feel like we're already starting to move towards this, but dancers are starting to defy the stereotypical ballet body, because most people and most dancers, it's not attainable in a healthy way or attainable, period. And yet there's so many beautiful, strong, like absolutely gorgeous dancers who just like fill the room and light up the stage. Yet most dancers or directors wouldn't say that they're like this stereotypical ballet body. And I feel like injuries are a really great time to reassess how we view our bodies and change that.
Totally. And I also feel like I have seen injuries could be like a blessing in disguise. So often you come back stronger, you come back healthier, you come back ready, and you kind of are able to take the time and press that reset button and actually like learn how to dance in a correct way, or learn how to take care of yourself. Where like if you have never been injured or you've never dealt with those issues, you would just like run into class and go willy-nilly, you know? It's kind of a blessing.
Yeah.
Time.
Absolutely.
It might be when you're in it and it feels yucky, but once you go back, it feels good.
Yeah. And we touched a little bit on this beforehand, but what are some of the stigmas that dancers have to face when they're injured? And what is the stigma that like directors and other dancers have towards injured dancers?
Okay, do you have like 5 hours to talk about all of this?
Oh my gosh.
Let's start with like the obvious like doozy. I mean, just in a professional setting, as soon as you're injured, you immediately feel like you're going to lose your job, which is just a terrible, terrible feeling because injuries are completely out of your control.
Mm-hmm.
That is the biggest stigma that I just like can't even deal with. You know, especially because typically your artistic directors were once dancers with injuries and they have dealt with the same things and they should understand the realities of what we do as ballet dancers. So that is a major stigma, the fear of losing your job. Another thing that needs to be stopped is directors putting pressure on you to get back into work or get back into performing before you're ready, before even the physical therapist has given you permission to go back. I mean, personally, it's hard because obviously all we want to do is be on stage. All we want to do is perform and all we want to do is rehearse. So when you're injured, it immediately takes you out of that mix. But when I sprained my ankle, and again, sprained my ankle, like that, it's like nothing compared to everything. But I remember it was like right before Nutcracker, and that season we were performing at the Kennedy Center, and it was this like exciting big moment, and I was like, oh my gosh, the Kennedy Center. And I was like, I don't care if my ankle is dangling from like a tendon, like I will be on that stage. And not only was my mentality like that, my director was like, we need you to do this. We need you to not only do the shows, we need you to do every cast. And I was not ready. My ankle was not ready, and everyone knew that. But you know, it's just the ballet world is so based off of fear. It's so if you don't do A, B, and C, you'll be punished or fired or who knows for the rest of the season. So I think those two are just major things that I can't even talk about without like going crazy about.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, or I mean, even people not believing the severity of an injury in the studio, like, or judging your injury compared to another injury. I remember just like, well, my bruise is purple and your bruise is yellow, so that doesn't mean it's as serious. Like that whole conversation doesn't help anyone, and it has to stop. And I want to take responsibility. I have been one of those people too. We're all guilty of it because that is just the environment that we're all in. So the more we talk about it and the more we own it and try to change the narrative, then we can start changing, you know?
Yeah, I feel like kind of what you talked about, there's the narrative of like the show must go on. And it's such a cheesy narrative, but when you look at how it's played out into our lives of like going on stage, even though you feel absolutely broken and just pushing through so much pain, like there's been so many times where I've pushed through injuries that I should not have been dancing on, like coming back after knee dislocations way too quickly and like coming back from hip surgery, you know, 3 months later, and I'm like doing all of class, and like how unhealthy that was because I felt like I had to, because I was wrong for getting injured and that was somehow my fault. And like, in order to get back into the good graces, I have to put on a face that everything is fine and I'm okay. And I'm just going to push through it no matter what.
Yes. I think another, going back to what I wish, would change. I think it's so important for the physical therapist or the people around you to advocate for you, because as dancers, our voices, I mean, I hope things are changing now and we can have some strength behind our voices, but our voices are not as strong as a physical therapist or a ballet mistress. Or, I mean, I think I started to learn that towards the end of my career, and I mean, I don't even know if my career is over pre-COVID or whatever.
Who knows?
Who knows? But I think it's so important for dancers to form actual relationships with your ballet masters, your ballet mistresses, your physical therapists. I mean, your directors are your directors, and I think sometimes it's difficult for you to go up to them and speak to them, which is a whole other conversation for a whole other day. But I think it's so important to have the organization of whatever company that you're a part of advocating for you, so you don't have to fight for yourself every single day in the studio, because we're already doing that when we're not injured. So we don't need extra pressure when we're in a boot or on crutches. So
yeah, absolutely. Going back to body image, what do you feel like, because especially during quarantine, you had, I feel like, this big shift in body image, and what were some ways in which helped you heal that relationship with your body, and what do you continue today in order to like grow in this area?
Okay, so my main thing that I want to say, and that is so important for everything, I think the first thing to body acceptance and body image is not only loving yourself and accepting yourself, but surrounding yourself with loving and supportive people. You know, if you are surrounded by the same people hating their own bodies and having the same toxic thoughts, odds are you're going to feel just the same. I mean, you're the company you keep, you are the company you keep. That's old expression. And I think what's helped me is having a support system that looks at me and they say that I look beautiful and healthy. And I think that is the main thing that has helped me. And obviously acceptance, you know, you have to accept, and just realizing that being a ballet dancer is so beautiful, and having a ballet body, whatever that means, is great, but you're so much more than your body. You're so much more than your cellulite. You're so much more than the jiggle on your arms. And as soon as you start to change that focus and realize all that your body does for you outside of the ballet studio, or even in the ballet studio, you will just be you'll be free from those thoughts. And I will say, again, it is such a muscle. There are times, especially as women, there are so many days where I wake up and I just look at myself and I'm like, this is not okay, you know? This is not okay. I've let myself go. And like I said earlier, it feels like I failed in some sort of way. That because us ballet dancers are so disciplined and we're so used to having such a high standard for ourselves, as soon as we kind of relax a little bit, it kind of feels that we've let ourselves down in a way. And it's just not true. I mean, I'm a 25-year-old woman, and your body's going to change. Your body cannot stay the same way it is when you're 5 years old, 10 years old, till your whole life. So it's hard. It's definitely hard. But as soon as you shift those few little like mindset changes, you're on the right path. So, I am doing this interview today on the first day of my period, TMI, but that yes, I mean, I'm just going to keep it real. And that is just, it is such a mental game. It is such a mental game. And looking back, at times where I was like rail thin, like skin and bones, and just remembering even then, I still had those same thoughts of, oh, I need to lose a little weight, or, oh, I could just lose a little more. And it's just when you're in the moment, you don't realize. And it's pretty crazy. It is really, really crazy.
Because our body is our instrument with ballet, I feel like it's also the tool that we use to gauge, and how others gauge us, as if we're committed, if we are determined, like if we have everything together. And I remember some of the worst days dancing of my life, I was complimented on how my body looked. And that was the only thing I felt like I had to hold on to. So that was what I was obsessed over, was how my body looked in the leotard tights. That didn't help my dancing.
No.
Like, I am so much more confident and like, my argument, a better dancer now that I have my womanly body than I was when I was trying to maintain this like preteen body as a 20-year-old.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's something that we need to normalize, is like health over being skinny, and like the fact that you don't have to be skinny to be a successful dancer. Like, I will say it until I am blue in the face. Like, skinny doesn't make you a good dancer.
No. You can be the skinniest girl in the world, and if you aren't talented when it comes to your ballet, it doesn't change anything, you know? And I also think whenever I talk about body image, or I talk about my body or whatever, I think like sometimes I would get frustrated because the main takeaway, and this is a correct takeaway, and I agree, the takeaway is to love yourself no matter what, or accept all your flaws and blah, 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 which is amazing. But I also think it's important to acknowledge that you are going to have those days. You are going to feel bad. You are going to want to change things on your body or improve in some sort of way. We're only human. And I think another thing that has helped me so much with my body image is to not keep myself in this little box of, okay, well, I have to love everything, even though the cellulite on my thigh is really bugging me, you know, like it doesn't have to be so black and white. It doesn't have to be hate my body or I love my body. It could be like every single day my body is changing, and every single day I'm going to try to be the best version of myself and fuel my body in the right way. You know, I think as ballet dancers, we are so strict and I don't know, rigid thinking when it comes to most things. We just focus on one thing. And I think it's just really, really important to talk about it is okay to not be okay every single day of the week, and to write it out until you do feel okay.
Yeah. And like, our growth isn't going to be linear. And just like how we view our body, like I am someone who preaches like intuitive eating, body acceptance, but like I have those days, and those days are now farther in between and they don't affect me as much. But having, again, as you said, like that support system, like one of my best friends, I know I can text her and be like, I'm having a really difficult body day. And immediately she sends back like, you know, I love you. Your body is beautiful. Like, focus on those things about your body that you love. And what has helped me is like focusing less on what my body looks like and focusing on the functionality of like, I feel really strong today. Like, I felt so strong in Grand Allegro. Like, that is something that is so empowering for me, is when like I can jump big, and what feels so freeing. And I wouldn't be able to do that if I wasn't strong and I don't feel my body. Like,
you know, I think it's important for me to say, you know, I kind of like my injuries. I have been very grateful. I have never struggled with my eating. I've never struggled with eating disorders. I was always the girl in the studio having a slice of pizza or getting a cheeseburger in my 30-minute breaks. Like, anyone who knows me in my real life can vouch for that. And so I think it's really important to talk about not only like, how do I put this? You know, there are so many levels of body image and way of thinking about your body, and to, as a person in a ballet studio, not to be so critical of someone else's body or someone else's feelings or someone else's way they view themselves, because you can be 90 pounds or you can be 300 pounds and you can feel any which way about your body that you know, and you can't, how can I tell you how you feel about your body, or how can I tell someone else, well, she is skinny, so why is she worrying about her body? You know, it's not how it works. So I think it's important. And I don't want, like, as a person who didn't struggle until I stopped dancing, I think it's important to talk about all the levels of body image, because it's an interesting conversation, and it's an interesting new adventure that I'm dealing with during COVID,
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have any last advice for dancers who are going through that body image journey?
Oh my gosh. Yes, I have so many things. So, well, injuries with body image, be patient with yourself, be kind to yourself. The only person that knows what's right for you is you. So listen to your gut, and to just swap out those negative thoughts with new thoughts, and just to accept and be patient. And you're gorgeous any which way, even if you are 500 pounds, that is my biggest thing. So it's a journey. We're all on that journey.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, I appreciate you so much for coming on here and talking about this with me. Tell everyone where they can find you.
Yes. Okay. So you can find me at my YouTube channel is Goldie Jane. My Instagram is Lazy Ballerina Club, and my blog is lazyballerinaclub.com. So it's all there. Yeah.
Perfect. And I will have everything linked down below, so be sure to check her out. Again, thank you so much, Goldie, for being on here.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, guys. And I will see you guys all next week in a new video. Bye.